and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Jenna Ellis in the morning on American Family Radio.
I love talking about the things of God because of truth and the biblical worldview. The U.S. Constitution obligates our government to preserve and protect the rights that our founders recognize come from God, our Creator, not our government. I believe that Scripture in the Bible is very clear that God is the one that raised up each of you, and God has allowed us to be brought here to this specific moment in time.
This is Jenna Ellis in the morning.
Good morning. It is Friday, October 31st. And so instead of Halloween, I actually celebrate Reformation Day. To all of my fellow Protestants out there, we are nailing some theses on the wall this morning. And that is actually going to be in the form of Gen Z news. I know that was kind of a really crazy transition, but hey, it's a Friday. So we're going to have some fun because joining me today, I'm super excited, is my very dear friend, Hannah, who you all have heard about because she is Jack's mom, who, of course, is the boys' bestie, Copper and Todd. And you've heard Copper and Todd and Jack occasionally give their political commentary in the background. But Hannah lives in my neighborhood. We have become really, really good friends. And she is part of Gen Z. And so keeps me informed as an older millennial on all of the Gen Z news. And so we thought it would be super fun to actually do a Friday segment, perhaps recurring, that talks about the news of what is going on in the Gen Z world. And we can also kind of have some fun with this and see how out of touch I am with Gen Z. But first of all, Hannah, welcome to the program, and just give listeners kind of a little bit about yourself, your background, how you grew up, your family. I love your parents, all of that.
Yes, we're one big family, but thanks, Jenna, for having me. I'm so excited. We're finally making our coffee talks an on-air potential regular.
Yes.
So, but a little bit about me, like Jenna said, I am Jack's mom. It's my child. So proud owner of a Cavapoo. But yeah, my background, so grew up in a Christian household. So Jenna's been so great because it's a friend that I can talk to about things that, I grew up talking about. So, and I kind of miss that element when you live in Orlando. It's a little bit of a mixed culture. So that's been a great bonder for me and Jenna. But like I said, grew up in church. Great parents, great grandparents, all around, just families that were really dedicated to the mission of the church and getting me involved and making me go to church until I could make my own decision that I wanted to be there. But yeah, testimony wise, I feel like I didn't really go off the beaten path. I didn't have some like crazy event that shaped the way I viewed about Christianity. But Pastor Angel at our church said this one day, and it really changed the way I thought about my testimony is, me and Jenna are proof that Christianity and following Jesus works. We didn't hit that rock bottom, and we're blessed to say that we didn't have to hit rock bottom to find Jesus. So that's kind of my story. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here and share some fun topics. Me and Jenna kind of trade off. She'll kind of keep me in the loop on the more political things, although I like to think I stay pretty informed myself. I'm one of those rare commodities where
you do much more than your sister Hallie, by the way.
Yes, yeah, we
she didn't even know about the government shutdown. We were giving her a little bit of grief over that. It's been going on for a month, but that's okay. We're still working on Hallie.
Yes, Hallie probably won't be on the show anytime soon.
So that'd be a whole nother segment. But yes.
Okay. But yeah, so I kind of realized, I'll mention to Jenna some things that I just assume she knows about, and she'd be like, I actually have no idea who that person is.
Yeah, so. and then you're absolutely shocked because in Hannah's Gen Z world, that's like everybody on TikTok, which, as all of our regular listeners know, I am not yet on TikTok. Hannah is trying to persuade me to get on that because that's really where Gen Z is at. And so the things that are trending on TikTok really aren't trending in other areas of the news, even sometimes on X, which is the platform I'm mostly on. So yeah, you've definitely enlightened me on, kind of some of the conversations that maybe deal with, whether it's entertainment or personalities or whatever, that actually do correlate to a worldview perspective and how Gen Z's thinking about things.
For sure. And a lot of these topics I'll, tell Jenna as an informative way, but also be like, what are your thoughts on this from a biblical worldview? So it's super fun. I feel like it keeps our conversations and our yapping ongoing.
Yes.
There's so much going on. But do we dive into the topics?
Yes. And one side note on that too, because it's become kind of our daily ritual to go to Seven Brew. If any of you out there know Seven Brew as a drive-through coffee, we are not sponsored by Seven Brew, but frankly we should be, because this has become our thing. So we always will drive to Seven Brew, we'll load up all the dogs. They love driving through. Everybody there at Seven Brew loves seeing all of the dogs. And so then on our way back and forth to coffee, we'll have these coffee chats and just talk about, news of the day, what's going on in life and biblical worldview. So that was kind of the origin of this segment, because we thought this is so fun and enlightening for both of us that we thought we would share it with the AFR audience. And what better way to do that than on a Friday and on Reformation Day too. So we're reforming the show.
That's right.
So yes. So yeah, let's dive in. So Hannah has selected these topics for us to discuss. And so, Hannah?
Yes. So I could not do a Gen Z what is happening in the world without mentioning Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
I have to.
Yes.
So
I hear the weekly update of Dancing with the Stars. I have no idea who any of these people are, but I get the FYI.
Yes. So it's if you're not watching it, I think it's such a fun show. And I told Jenna, it's just a great way to conversate with people. I was getting my hair done the other day, and I talked to my hairstylist for 30 minutes about one episode of Dancing with the Stars. So it really is, for our generation, a great connector. Just one of those lighthearted topics that just you really talk about with anybody if you're watching. So I've been trying to get Jenna on board. But if this is a reoccurring thing, don't worry. If I'm back next Friday, I will bring the update for Rock and Roll Week.
Ooh.
But this week was a Halloween-themed night.
Okay.
I'll keep it short, more about who got voted off, who didn't. But there is an underdog this season.
Okay.
And his name is Andy. He used to be kind of Andy Cohen's sidekick back in the day. So kind of a comedian, not a great dancer. And I think he knows he's not a great dancer. I think he's maybe 58, 60. So he's kind of open. He knows that my body doesn't move the way it used to. But the fans love him. He should have been gone week 2 or 3 if we're basing it off of dance. But he just keeps on going. He is now in week 6 or 7. Can't even keep up with what it is. So we did see, I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Secret Lives of Mormon Housewives, never seen the show, but there was 2 of the housewives on this season. And so we saw Jen and Jan go home last night. So she is a Mormon housewife. So Andy keeps trucking along.
Well, hang on. I have a question. So as a Mormon housewife, aren't they against dancing? How is she a Mormon housewife and on Dancing with the Stars? I don't
they blew up. I'm kind of out of touch with this world.
Mm-hmm.
I only know some of it because my roommate, I watched some, and so I've seen some of the episodes just being around the house. But they grew up, they blew up on TikTok, and they're deemed mom talk. So they were making TikToks about their kids and dancing, and kind of they got into some scandals because they're not the traditional Mormon, super conservative, super bunch of rules. So they kind of just blew up in that sense, and they got a reality show out of it. There's a whole group of maybe 8, 9, 10 of them. There's 2 housewives this season. Neither one of them are very liked. I think they're a very controversial group of people watch because they're interested. I don't think they actually like the Mormon housewives. I think it's more of an entertainment value because they're such interesting characters, especially for the stereotypes around Mormons, from what I know. So yes, we did see Jen go home. There is another one, Whitney, who is a pretty good dancer. She might be the most disliked person on the show. So every week I feel like on X or TikTok, it's everyone's let's band together and get rid of Whitney. It hasn't happened yet. We'll hope that for next week. She was in the bottom 3 this week, so we were really close. But yes, Andy, the underdog, continues to trek along. So like I said, I couldn't just skip Dancing with the Stars.
No. And see, and this correlation to me, what we were talking about actually on our way to coffee this morning, was how, it's so fascinating how everybody bands together like this to try to get rid of, certain people. And it's not necessarily based on their actual ability to dance. It's more of a popularity contest, and how so much of this whole reality TV kind of metric of, voting and participating has made a lot of the Gen Z voting demographic really looking at even elected officials and people that we actually should have a metric for voting for them based on actual capabilities, not just personality and popularity. But you look at Mamdani, we were talking about that this morning. and saying, how when he goes viral, like on TikTok and like seems to be super engaging and, looks like he's popular. And this is what Obama did very well in connecting on Facebook. A lot of younger voters will vote for elected officials and in the political sphere the same way that they're voting for Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. And we see some of that also with Gavin Newsom. They have kind of a new social media strategy where I've seen more tweets from his campaign kind of doing like the play on how Trump would tweet. And I feel like he's gone viral a couple of times, not because it's Gavin Newsom, but just because it is that social media presence that just happens to go viral. But yeah, Dancing with the Stars is a perfect example because the show's kind of had to come back. It had a few slow seasons, but now it's all based off TikTok content. So all of the pros and their celebrity dancers make TikToks through the week. And that's how Andy, the underdog, who's not a great dancer, how he's become so loved just because people love his content and they find his content entertaining or funny or like they, feel some kind of like sympathy, love for him.
So it's not even based on his actual performance. It's all these other things on TikTok, which I find really fascinating. And that actually goes into one of the other topics you were talking about with TikTok in terms of music genres.
Yes. So I mentioned this to Jenna as like a haha, like more I thought was like not a huge idea, but the past hour I've been on X and TikTok and it's kind of everywhere because people have so many thoughts about it. But for the first time in 35 years, there is not a rap song in the top 40 of the Billboard Hot 100. So for the last 35 years, every week there has been some rap song, whether it was from Drake or Eminem, as Jenna.
Yeah, I said, this is because Eminem retired. And she looked at me and she was like, that was a really long time ago, Jenna.
Eminem's
like,
not relevant.
That's the only rapper that I ever knew. Not that I listened to his music, just full disclosure, but I was aware of his presence.
Yes. So it is really interesting. And I just thought it was a headline that no one was going to talk about, but people are really taking to it on social media, just trying to figure out, why the sudden shift of, because it's not just every year, it's been every week for 35 years. There has been a rap song that's been very relevant in our culture. So I said to Jenna, I feel like it's a sign that as a nation we're healing, because if you look at rap culture in general, it's not, I don't feel like it's the best style of music. A lot of times it's like, like hating on women a little bit or very misogynistic.
Very vulgar.
Very vulgar. So it is really interesting to just see as a society where, pop music, I think not to say all of it is clean and, solid like messaging. But I'm not upset about it.
Yeah. And you were also telling me that, a lot of the attribution to this is probably because of TikTok and what Gen Z is listening to in terms of reels.
Yes. So this day and age, the music industry is so different than it was even 10 years ago, where you don't see artists out there promoting singles or albums the way they used to, where they go on radio shows or they would go on TV shows and have like magazine articles. They're still doing some of that, but now it's so much of TikTok. What is going viral on TikTok? If you have a 10-second clip blow up, no one will know anything else about the rest of your song. But if they know that 10-second from a TikTok trend, then your song's going to jump up to a number one spot.
So concerts in the future are going to look like 10-second clips,
basically,
where people will like get out their phones for the 10 seconds. Instead of my generation, we had to buy the entire CD, right? So we had, if we liked one song, we had to also get the other 15 that were on the album. Then, of course, like Spotify and streaming came along and all of that, where you could just get the ones that you like and like. But and I was past the generation of like the mixtapes where you had to wait until it was on radio and then like rip it off that. But like I still remember the television shows that showed like that was how that was how you'd gift your boyfriend or girlfriend in high school, was like the mixtape.
Yes,
right?
That is kind of cute.
Right,
we should bring that back.
I know, and like the boombox holding it outside.
I'm here for it.
Right, I know. Yeah,
we could have a whole segment on just dating and
bringing
bringing back some like romance in life.
Yes, and like men, where are you at with your boom boxes? Like outside our window might be a little creepy, actually. But, but still,
maybe down the street.
Yeah,
give us a mile.
Yeah, yeah. Like have a really loud boom box. But yeah. So all of these reels are just giving like the 10-second clip, and that's totally true. Once you said that, I related to that because I was like, yeah, that is so true on Instagram. If I'm scrolling through and there's like a really catchy song, I'll go and look at it and then I'll just use that one little clip.
Yeah.
And I won't necessarily listen to the rest of the song.
Yes, people, I mean, there are still artists where people will go listen to the albums, but that's not really a thing now. It's very singles. It's very single based. I think that's why we'll see a reoccurrence of one-hit wonders, just because so many people are releasing trendy TikTok sounds, but no one's going and listening to their entire discography.
And that's probably true for covers as well. Like, so if there's one thing that goes viral, then everybody does the covers instead of necessarily creating their own music. But it's just so fascinating how the digital age and how all of these different trends and what is so popular with the younger generation is revolutionizing different industries.
Yes.
That is so fascinating to me.
So rap music, I don't want to say it's dead, but we
can hope.
I am not a rap music fan. I never have been. My sister went through a rap phase, and I used to beg her to not play it while I was in the car. I would purposely drive so I could have like the driving music rights.
I'll drive
if I was driving, I was like, I get to pick the music.
Yeah.
So
wow. I can't really see Holly in the rap era. I'm glad I didn't know her.
Yes, you should be glad. That was a wild time.
That's amazing.
But yes, it's exciting times.
All right. Well, and speaking of pop artists, there was another story. I did know of these two people. I was very proud of myself for knowing.
Anytime I start off any kind of pop culture Gen Z topic, I always ask Jenna, do you know this person?
And probably 9 times out of 10, I say no.
No. But she did know these two. But she didn't know this one. So Katy Perry and the former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Yes. And Katy Perry, as we all remember, is known for being an astronaut and her 5 seconds in space, more even than pop culture. So, we can refer to her as like the astronaut and the prime minister. I mean, this is like a love story in the making.
It's like someone went into one of those like random celebrity like name generators and said, give me a pop star and give me a politician. And then like, boom, like now we have this couple. And it has people on social media are losing their minds, at least in Gen Z. I don't know. This one may span different.
I had heard of this because it was trending on X because I guess there was like a viral photo of them on like a yacht or something. And my first thought was, how in the world would the two of them have overlapped? And so my thought was like, there's got to be some in all of the world of dating apps. There's probably an app for like the former viral leftist, crazy, satanic politicians and pop artists. And so that's probably, they both were like, oh, swipe right. He's kind of cute. And then they matched.
Right. Or like, did they send a DM?
Satanic hinge.
Yes. I need to know how this came to be.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you go from Orlando Bloom to like a Canadian Prime Minister or former Canadian Prime Minister? I want to know what they talk about. Like, I just need to know.
Do they even talk? I mean, like they both in my very limited view of at least how Justin Trudeau was the Prime Minister of Canada and then also Katy Perry's lack of brain cells. I can't imagine that like deep conversations are the essence of their relationship.
I just can't imagine it is. No, I can't even fathom. Like, that's why I think the internet is so like shook over this. It's because it just makes no sense. Like, they just hard launch in Paris and everyone's like, and he like went to one of her shows. And her tour right now is pretty out there. Like, she's a pretty interesting character.
Yeah. Interesting is putting it mildly. And maybe it's that because he's no longer the prime minister, it's almost like he's dating her for relevance. I mean, that unfortunately happens and I experienced this in like the DC circuit. I didn't date anybody when I was in DC because it was all about the transactional nature of relationships. Like, what can you do for my image and brand and the power couple thing, which is totally not what God intended for marriage and family. It's not about being the power couple. It's about actually having a solid marriage built on the fundamentals and, children and creating a home environment and all of those things that I really, really doubt that Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau are contemplating.
No.
But so why is Gen Z like obsessed with this? Because I wouldn't think that those two people they would care about.
Right, because they're not the most relevant. Definitely not like Justin Trudeau. I really think a lot of it goes back to how did this come to be? Because like I said, it feels like so random. Like, it feels like that celebrity name generator. Because it's, she's always dated, she dated John Mayer and then she was with Orlando Bloom for about 10 years. So it's like.
See, and I know who those people are because that's more my generation of relevance. And so I do remember John Mayer, the singer, and Orlando Bloom. Obviously, I watched Pirates of the Caribbean and Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Like, didn't he get started? Legolas was like his first main like breakout role, Orlando Bloom.
Maybe,
Legolas,
yeah.
I think.
That was, he was kind of pre my time. Like, he was
Yeah.
early.
So this is the generational clash.
Yes.
But like all of these things that are going viral. So like last topic, we were also talking about the Louvre heist, because this was something that I think spans all generations, because for regular listeners of the show, I covered this because I have been so obsessed with all of the reels on Instagram that have been just so hilarious, making fun of this, but also the worldview implications of saying, if we like the look of, the CEO killer, then we're saying, oh, we're behind him. Let's, create a celebrity fan base. Or if we're saying, wow, this is a romanticized heist, then somehow we're totally fine with it. Let them keep the jewels.
Yes.
And are you seeing that also in Gen Z?
Seeing a lot of that. I even saw a tweet this morning. There was the article that they captured some of the people, and someone even tweeted like, oh my gosh, I hope they're not hot. Basically, kind of like you said with the CEO, like that whole situation. It's like, if we deem them attractive, then we'll give them a pass. But it's you can look at it from a lighthearted sense, but like you said, like there is real world implications to having that mindset of, oh, like, because it's not, they didn't scam, or like they didn't just call someone and like scam an old lady kind of like thing that we see a lot these days, where people, try to do it via technology. So people are like, oh, like this is our first heist as Gen Z, where we actually saw like, what you see in the movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, everybody saw like a legit.
This is like a 1920s era heist. And like, I saw so many posts where people were saying, I thought we were past, this kind of, this kind of old world, like gumshoe detective sort of heisting,
Yeah. So a lot of that, people are just really interested because of that. So I see a lot of that, but yeah, it's a lot of like, say, given the pass, or we should let them keep them. They worked hard for it.
6 to 7 minutes of a heist.
Yes.
So that sounds like the EBT snap people. Oh, we have to talk about that really quick before I let you go, because this was something that totally went viral, that Hannah, like 2 days ago, sent me the first clip and was like, I cannot believe that we live in the same like universe with these people. And this was just so insane. And I did a whole rant on this on the show yesterday, just talking about how entitled these people are, that if they don't get government benefits, then they just think that it's perfectly fine for them to then go and take, because they're believing, basically their worldview is, the government is not here to preserve and protect my rights that come from God. Government is here to provide for my lifestyle.
Yeah. When I saw that video, I was just so like angry.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of times we see those videos and I'll be annoyed, or I'll just like scoff, but that one actually evoked like a real emotion. Like I said, like I told you, I just can't believe that we live in the same world of people like that. And I'm glad that I don't understand that way of thinking, because it makes me feel like, at least, if I don't understand it, then maybe I'm on the right track. I'd be concerned if I understood where they were coming from. But it's, like, get up, there's so many people that are working hard every day. And then it's unfortunate. I think Gen Z, it's like, I think we're seeing a shift where I feel like I see a good sense of like conservatism and Christianity. So I don't think Gen Z wise is hopping on that bandwagon of like, oh yes, like this is okay. But it is sad to see, some people that I know in my life here in Orlando that do understand where that person's coming from, or like, so it's an interesting thing. But yeah, that was wild. That was crazy. And that's why I had to send it to you. And like, not a lot of times, especially I feel like I ingest so much social media just with the world today, that a lot of times I don't feel like, I'm kind of numb to like actually feeling things. So for a video to actually spark so much like emotion, I was like, this is a big deal.
100%. And the same thing for me was when I watched that, I was so angry that someone could actually have that worldview and could be so callous to the hard work of others and the private property of others, that they could encourage other people to go out and just brazenly steal. And then the lady that you sent me the video of was basically showing her haul of thievery and was like, look at what I stole, because I don't want to pay for all of this. And so you too can just go out and take. And it was just utterly antithetical to what any rational person would think. I mean, and we used to have, Democrat and Republicans were at least closer together in the sense that we all had a baseline morality. But that's where I hope that Gen Z is coming back to, where we're recognizing like, okay, wait a minute, there are some limits here. We need to make sure that government has law and order. We need to make sure that there is a moral premise. And I'm seeing that a lot with Gen Z. So there's a lot to be hopeful for.
There is. And we're out, for the most part, like working, trying to get jobs. So I think a lot of people are not okay with that.
Yeah.
So one thing I know you played a clip from it yesterday on your show, but as this lady was showing her haul of stolen goods, she was pulling it out of her Coach purse.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned, like the nails in there. So it's, it's one of those things. And
yeah, it's like if you have the money, like I didn't have a Coach purse until I was like out of college. And the first one that I bought was from an outlet store. And I was so proud of myself. It cost probably like $50. And it was like such an expense for me. And I was so proud of myself that I actually was at the point in my life that I could afford something like that. It wasn't like this brazen, but I'm not spending $7 on Tylenol. Like,
yes.
Yeah. So exactly that whole mentality, it was so frustrating to see, but we are already out of time, but I love this kind of popcorn topics, but one more, one more.
We have to end on a fun topic.
Okay.
So dictionary.com just came out with their word of the year, I believe yesterday. And I didn't tell Jenna what the word was because I wanted to know. I think you've heard it. I don't know if you know what it means though.
So I'm thinking like slay or, some of these, and now I'm like blanking on even any other Gen Z terms, but you and Hallie definitely keep me in the lingo of Gen Z, because I was even talking to my cousins who are millennials as well. And there was this whole reel that like somebody was talking just in Gen Z lingo. And my cousin was like, wow, I feel old. I did not know any of that. And I was like, I was tracking because of Hannah and Hallie. Yes. I'm so excited. So I may have heard of this word, but so the dictionary.com word of the year would be yeet. Isn't that still a thing?
No.
Okay. Okay. There was a major eye roll over here. Okay. That's my best guess.
Gosh, we go a long way from the yeet.
Oh, but, that's already antiquated?
Here's what I'll say before I say this. I have never once used this word in anything other than a joking way.
Okay.
Because, we had this conversation. I'm kind of at the top of the Gen Zers. I do not claim the Gen Zers that are actually using some of this lingo that are in like the high school, junior high range.
There's a range.
There is a range.
Just like the older and younger millennials.
Yes.
Absolutely. So with that disclaimer
that I do not use this word. The word of the year is 6'7".
6'7"?
6'7", but it's spelled like the number 67.
Oh, I have only seen this on reels of moms of high schoolers.
Yep.
That have been like, we see this on like their lockers and stuff. And I never really understood why. And I just kind of scrolled past because I'm like, all right, that's, I don't know. So I probably should have paid more attention.
Maybe so.
What's the definition?
So that's the funny thing. No one really knows. That's what's so interesting about this Gen Zer lingo is people it catches on. So I think it came up in a song on TikTok. And so then it just kind of became a phrase. But most people will say it's used as kind of like a maybe this, maybe that, so type of thing.
Oh, so it's like, do you like this? Well, it's a 6'7".
Yeah, 6'7".
Okay, well, and maybe I'm attributing too much logic to this, but like maybe if there's like a range of 0 to 10, and we're saying, it's a 6'7".
Yeah.
Maybe like could I use that in like verbiage, regular lingo?
Yes, I think we should make a goal to say it one day.
One
time today.
This is like this is like when I was in debate, we would have like a word of the round. And we would just internally, like to our team, get a bonus point if we could actually say the word in context of our debate. Like I still remember there was one that was cornucopia was the word of the debate round. And so it was like, there's a cornucopia of rights vested. And it was like, and then I remember the judge just looking like, what are you saying? And I was like, but I got points for it. So 6'7" will have to be.
6'7" is the word of the year. Okay. If any of you listeners out there have high school kids, I'm sure you're very familiar. A teacher even on TikTok was like, does anyone have any tips on how I can get my students to stop saying this every other minute?
Make something else more cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of crazy lingo out there, but
see, I'm like, my mom still says groovy. Like that's our era. I said that one time and like one of my friends looked at me and was like, what? And I was like, wow, I was so like in my mom's head. I even said it with like her inflection and it was very like 60s. It was really
I don't know the last time I've used groovy. Unless I was going to like a 70s, 80s theme.
Right, exactly. Like the Jollywood Nights or something. All right, well, Hannah, this has been so much fun. And hopefully for everyone, if you have a Gen Zer in your life, you can you can ask them about this segment and if these are topics that are important to them. But I always so appreciate that I get my Gen Z news and we talk about the biblical worldview perspective and all of this from Hannah. So thanks for coming on and look forward to next Friday.
Yes, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back with more here on Jenna Ellis in the Morning.
Hey, my name is Wesley Wildman.
And I'm Walker Wildman.
And we're brothers, and our family have been leading tours to the land of the Bible for more than 30 years.
Coming up in March of 2026, we would love for you to join us for something very special, a Footsteps of Paul tour, a journey through Greece.
We'll walk exactly where the Apostle Paul walked, through Athens, ancient Corinth, Philippi, and Thessalonica.
You'll enjoy unforgettable experiences and meaningful fellowship with believers and with Wesley and Walker.
And we'll eat well, laugh a lot, and yes, eat well again. And most importantly, we will grow in our faith as the Bible comes alive before your eyes. You'll get to see the very things that we read about or that your pastor talks about in church.
The Footsteps of Paul tour is March 17th through the 24th, 2026.
Register today at wildmangroup.com.
That's wildmangroup.com. We can't wait to see you there.
If you are 65 or older, you know this, inflation is hitting everyone hard right now, especially when it comes to healthcare. Over the last 10 years, healthcare costs have skyrocketed by, get this, 230%. If you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are still out-of-pocket expenses like deductibles and co-payments, and they really add up. But here's some good news. MediShare 65 Plus is designed to fill in those gaps and help protect you from rising healthcare costs. At only $99 per month up to age 75, you get peace of mind at a price you can afford. And MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around 30 years. It's not some big impersonal thing. It's a community of people helping each other, business owners, pastors, retirees. People love it. MediShare 65 Plus just makes sense. To learn more, give them a call. They're great to talk to. They'll offer to pray with you each time you call, too. Call now. 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE. 833-45-BIBLE.
Hello, Americans. I'm Todd Starnes. Stand by for news and commentary next. In Pennsylvania, there's a private college named after Benjamin Franklin and Supreme Court Justice John Marshall. It's called Franklin and Marshall College. So it's not all that surprising the college's mascots are two old white dudes dressed in colonial-era garb named Franklin and Marshall. But that's a problem in this age of diversity hires where skin color and chromosomes matter more than university tradition. That's why college president Andrew Rich established a mascot working group to replace Franklin and Marshall with mascots who would be deemed more gender neutral. Well, the College Fix reports students and faculty had accused Franklin and Marshall of being racist, and there were previous attempts to actually rename the school. Now, the athletic teams are known as the Diplomats, and the college hopes to introduce its new mascot by winter. It will no doubt be some sort of gender nonconforming, politically correct MOC, mascot of color. Not very diplomatic, if you ask me. I'm Todd Starnes.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
Welcome back. And so, as most of you know, we have an AFR exclusive podcast that I host each and every Friday called On Demand, and it is dropping today. And I have a very special guest, Andrew Klavan, who is, of course, a host and author on Daily Wire. And he's also, besides being a philosopher, a political commentator, he's actually from the entertainment world, and he is an author of incredible novels. And his brand new book, After That, The Dark, is out now, and you absolutely have to read it. And so he is my special guest on the podcast episode for this week. And I wanted to just give you a preview of this interview because it was so fascinating to me. Not only did we talk about his book, but also got into how writers in Hollywood right now write for their characters and why heroes aren't written in a very realistic way in Hollywood compared to how heroes and men and women should be written in terms of characters. So I want to just give you a small taste of this interview here with Andrew Klavan.
Well, yeah, first of all, the thing that's so hard, I think, especially for Hollywood writers, and I've worked in Hollywood for a couple of years for my sins, but I think it's so hard is you're not allowed to write women as women. Every woman has to be capable of beating up a man. Has to, these 5'6" women who chase down bad guys and catch up with them, which is already ridiculous, and then beat them up, which is totally absurd. One of the most controversial things I ever said on my show was after watching a fantasy movie on Netflix. There was a woman who out-dueled a man with a sword. And I said, I'm sorry, that never happens. And all of these people just started screaming at me. What do you mean? I'm a fencer and I can fight with men all the time. And I thought, this is a medieval story where you're not playing by rules. You're simply like whacking at somebody with a sword. A man would walk right through you, And so that's the lie that women are being told all the time until the transgender movement, when they actually had to fight with men, and you realize, oh no, that's not actually a thing that happens. It doesn't happen that you deal in a fist fight with a man if you're a woman and you come away ahead. Women's strengths and their vulnerabilities and their femininity are the things that make us love them, but they are not men, And so if you can't write a woman as a woman, then you can't write a man as a man, because that's what men are here for, is to create a world in which women can walk, and do the wonderful thing they do, including creating the human race. So I just have ignored all that. I've just ignored feminism. It's not like my characters don't know about it. It's not that I don't write characters who have taken that path. But my women are women. They act like women. They have the flaws of women. They have the virtues of women. And that allows me to write men in a much more honest way. And I think that's the big problem that Hollywood has, is they cannot. Actresses don't want to play that. And, here's a really funny thing. Just as an example, she's by far not the only one, but just a perfect example, Demi Moore, the woman who was, married to Bruce Willis and was a huge star. Watch the movies in which she is a star, one successful movie after another, in which she's vulnerable. She can be hurt. She's an emotional person. She wants to be loved. She's looking for love. You watch her in Ghost, where she's completely compelling. It's a wonderful story. And then she made a movie called G.I. Jane, in which she's a tough guy and she can beat up anybody, and she's a Marine, or I can't remember which branch of the service she's in. Her career ended. Her career just ended. I mean, that was like it. She never made a hit movie again until no, she actually hasn't. I don't think she's made many hit movies after that. Every great actress, including actresses, on the far left, like Jane Fonda, who have had great careers, emanate the vulnerability of women, which because women are vulnerable people, and they're vulnerable emotionally, and they're vulnerable physically, and that creates a space for men to be, the other half of a full person. And so they're really stuck in Hollywood because of feminism, and because the actresses think, no, I want to play a strong woman, by which they don't mean a woman who can walk into a delivery room and come out with a baby in spite of all the pain. They don't mean that. They mean a woman who can beat up a man and is just as physically resourceful as a man, which simply does not happen. And so, I've just ignored all that, which has made my career a lot harder, but it's also made my stories better and has made my characters better. And I think that's the problem they're going to have to solve. If you want to write men as men, you got to write women as women, and that means facing down the feminist left, and it's very hard for artists to do that. What happens in America, and I guess it happens throughout the West in a lot of ways, is you have a movement that has some legitimate source, and then it gets taken over by the left. So, after the Industrial Revolution, women lost a lot of their economic power. You go back to Proverbs, Proverbs 31, have I got that right?
Yes.
That describes
a
woman, more precious. And, she's a homemaker, she's a mom, she's a wife, but she's also an economic engine. She has all these home industries going. She's, trading in land, she's planting orchards, she's doing all the things that women did before the Industrial Revolution. When the Industrial Revolution takes all those home industries away, like making food, making clothes, things that were economically vastly important, that, in the 18th century, is when feminism starts to rise. It's when it's invented. It's invented in that moment to replace the fact that women had lost a lot of their economic power to machines. So that's a legitimate question. How do women maintain a place in the world, a place in the economic setting, while being homemakers, while being moms and wives? How does that work? Totally legitimate question. once the left takes these movements over, it becomes men are toxic, family is toxic. If you stay home and you take care of your children, you're just a mom, you're worthless, you have nothing to offer. Whereas if you are a congresswoman, somebody who should probably be arrested, then you're an important person. And so it's the left taking over these things. And then when you say, oh, feminism is bad, people think you don't like women or you want to oppress women. But no, it's this leftist feminism that has really ruined everything for boys and girls. And I see this a lot. When I first started working at the Daily Wire, it was an experience of an older guy working with a lot of younger people. And I was absolutely shocked by the hostility men had toward women. So, I've been an athlete all my life. I did karate, I played tennis. And so I've been in a lot of locker rooms. I've talked to a lot of men about women. And when in my day, when we talked about women, did we roll our eyes and say, oh, women, they're difficult to deal with, they're emotional, they're this, they're that. Yeah, but it was always with this incredible love. I mean, always, you would be shocked if you heard the way men talk about their wives when their wives aren't around, the respect, the love, the kind of devotion that men have for their wives. That had disappeared. So I would talk to young men, and they would have all the same kind of, quote unquote complaints about women. They're emotional, they're this or that, but they were doing it without any love. It was all hostility. And they started to show me, and remember, I'm working with conservatives. They started showing me the videos of guys like Andrew Tate, who abuses women and teaches men how to abuse women. And I would look at these things and I would say, son, this is a pimp talking, You don't follow pimps, what's wrong with you? But they were so angry. They'd been so stripped of their masculine place and their masculine power, and probably in dealing with their moms and dealing with their teachers, they had gotten a lot of this anti-male stuff. And so that's the problem. The problem is not, a woman should be able to choose her own life. Of course she should, although I think a wiser choice is to create your life on a timeline that includes having babies and making a home, and then moves into the outer world. But that's just my opinion. But, I want each woman to choose her own path. But that's not the problem. It's that these movements get taken over by the left, and they become anti-family because families are the source of freedom. They become anti-men because we need men to defend freedom. They become anti the values that make people wise and good and great because they are communists and hate God. Just put it as bluntly as possible. So the problem is a little bit more complex than, I hate feminism. It's that I hate leftist feminism because leftism is inherently a godless, materialist philosophy. And therefore it calls evil good and good evil, and it just gets everything confused. So that's the problem we're facing. We're facing men who are angry with good reason, women who are confused and lonely and don't know why nobody wants to date them or do anything but sleep with them and dump them. They have no understanding of it. And it's painful for an older man to watch that happen because they don't know where to go. They have no one to say to them, don't listen to these people. Do the thing that you were built to do, which is to create life and to create homes and to do all those things. And there'll be time. Life is short, but life is long. Life is short, and when you get to the end of it, you look back and think, wow, that went by fast. But each day gives you a lot of time to do things in. And there's time to have children. There's time to create a marriage. There's time to create a home, and time to move on into other things when that work is done.
All right, so that was just a small clip from my wide-ranging interview with Andrew Klavan that is out now on demand. So if you want to listen to the full interview, I'd encourage you to do that. Follow Andrew Klavan at Andrew Klavan, Klavan, because there are no E's in Klavan, as we know. You can go to afr.net, click on the tab for podcasts, scroll down to on demand, share that with everyone, and get Andrew's new book out now. After that, The Dark. We'll be right back with more here on Jenna Ellis in the Morning.
The Middle East, that's one part of the world we need to pay attention to, especially the country of Israel. Each week, I'll help you make sense of what's happening in that region through a biblical lens. I'll bring you important information about security threats, archaeological discoveries, biblical prophecy, ministries happening on the ground, and much more. I'm John Riley. Join me for the Middle East Report Special Edition every Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Central on American Family Radio as I connect you to the people, places, and geography of what we read in God's Word.
To sharpen the biblical worldview of Christians, and to share the good news of Jesus Christ. That is the mission of the Christian Worldview radio program. I'm host David Wheaton, inviting you to join us this Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, as we discuss all matters of life and faith from a decidedly biblical perspective. The Christian Worldview, Saturday mornings at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, right here on American Family Radio.
Hello, this is Edward Graham, and I've got a great idea for you this Christmas. Through Operation Christmas Child, you can share hope with a child in need. Fill a shoebox with toys, school supplies, and hygiene items. Add your picture and an encouraging note. We'll deliver your shoebox gift to a child alongside the greatest gift of all, the good news of Jesus Christ.
Visit SamaritansPurse.org/OCC to get involved. That's SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. You can be part of sharing the love of Jesus with children in need around the world. Operation Christmas Child is collecting gift-filled shoeboxes during National Collection Week, November 17th through the 24th. Make your shoebox gift fun, full, and personalized by filling it with toys, school supplies, and personal care items. Then bring your packed shoebox to a drop-off location. Children will hear the gospel alongside your gift and be invited to join a discipleship program. Visit SamaritansPurse.org/OCC to learn more.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-788-1813.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
Welcome back. Well, as we've been following this whole rise of Muslim domination in America, and I can't even believe we're talking about this with Mamdani, whose election is next Tuesday in New York City. And even here in Florida, there are reports that a lot of Islamic individuals are buying up church land to put mosques and are suggesting brazenly and openly that they're going to try to take over the state and also America for Islam. And now out of Minnesota, there is a report that 2 Muslim doctors have been performing illegal surgeries on young girls known as female genital mutilation, or FGM, as part of Shia Muslim religious practice. Listen to this report from a local station.
Troubling details are emerging in the federal case involving a local doctor. Jumana Nagarwala is accused of performing an illegal medical procedure on young girls. The procedure, referred to by prosecutors as female genital mutilation, was allegedly performed at a clinic in Livonia. And now the man whose name is on the front of that clinic was charged in connection with the case. Sean Lay is live with the very latest on charges against this second doctor and his wife. Sean.
That is correct. All 3, 2 doctors and a wife, all charged now in this very troubling case. The FBI says the evidence here is mounting. They are relying on some security camera footage, some taped phone conversations, and the testimony from 2 very young girls who say they were taken to that clinic where they experienced unthinkable pain.
It's classic game playing by the government, charging them on a Friday, knowing that they'd spend the weekend in custody, and then we'd have a detention hearing next week. So no, I'm not surprised that the government would pull that sort of stunt.
The attorney for Dr. Fakhruddin Attar is upset that he and his wife were arrested today and now have to be held in jail until a detention hearing can be held next week. But it will be in that hearing when more will be presented about religion, culture, tradition versus federal law that prohibits the cutting of the genitals of young girls to keep them from being sexually active later in life.
I think on Wednesday you might learn a little bit more. But they do have a very strong religious belief.
The charges are disturbing, that the doctor allegedly conspired with respected Henry Ford emergency room doctor Jumana Nagrawala to bring the girls in from Minnesota, where female genital mutilation is against state law, to the Attar's office in Livonia, where there is not a state law on the books against the practice here in Michigan. The FBI alleges that the girls' genitals were cut by Nagrawala, with Attar and his wife assisting. The lawyer for Dr. Nagrawala says only skin was removed in what he calls a Shia Muslim religious practice. Federal investigators say 2 7-year-olds suffered pain, cuts, and scarring from the procedure, recognized by the World Health Organization as a human rights violation.
For himself, he's been an upstanding member of the medical community for years.
Both doctors have been suspended by the hospitals they were working at. There are no allegations that any of these procedures happened at those hospitals. In the meantime, when you dig deep into the court documents here, Kimberly, one of these young victims, just 7 years old, said she was in so much pain she could not walk out of that clinic in Livonia.
This is just absolutely horrific, and it is a clash of worldviews, of course, between the left that is suggesting that Islamophobia is on the rise, right? And they're not worried about Sharia law infiltrating the United States, with the leftist actually correct belief that female genital mutilation is against the sanctity of the female body, and especially for these young girls who, of course, did not choose this for themselves. But it also clashes against the left's belief that somehow, if you want to go through a gender transition, or a parent of a minor child as young as, perhaps 7, or definitely under the age of 18, that this kind of genital mutilation can occur under the auspices of changing your gender. So it's utterly confused, but this is why the law has to reflect objective moral truth, and why we need to ensure that no form of Sharia law or anything under the auspices of quote-unquote religious practice actually inflicts this kind of objective harm against minors. And this is why our law has recognized for a long time here in America that this type of practice, while perhaps under the banner of some religion, is still in the state's interest to protect the child. And this is where the state's compelling interest to protect children against decisions of older adults conflicts at times with some religious beliefs. And this is why we have to remain an inherently Christian nation, because the biblical worldview respects the integrity of the body, respects the fact that parents are supposed to be stewards of their children. They are not supposed to inflict this type of harm. And so the fact that we are seeing these types of practices here in the United States and under the guise of Muslim religious practice is absolutely horrific. This should never happen in any country, but absolutely should not be happening in hospitals here in the United States. So I hope that this will be kind of one of those test cases, as utterly tragic and just disgusting as it is, to clearly state once and for all that this type of surgery and this type of practice is against the laws of the United States, is criminal in nature, and actually does inflict serious bodily harm against the victims of this horrific practice. But we have to also extrapolate this into the wider issue here, which is the infiltration of Islam into the United States. And this is why these coexist bumper stickers and things, and people just saying, oh, well, Islam is a peaceful religion, and, the First Amendment allows for whatever beliefs you want. That doesn't actually matter to the laws and the criminal laws that are and should be on the books, that reflect the truth of the laws of nature and of nature's God, that are premised in the biblical worldview, that our rights come from God, our creator, and that every human being is endowed with those same rights. And it doesn't matter if you're 7 years old, if you're 7 months old, if you are 7 days old, or you're 70 years old. It does not matter. You have the exact same rights, and the government is obligated to preserve and protect those rights, regardless of what any religious practice portends, and regardless of whatever kind of custom or culture from even legal immigrants comes into the United States. And this is why, as Christian conservatives, we need to continue to demand assimilation into a culture that is premised on Christian values, the biblical worldview, and that our law reflects the moral order of a virtuous society. We have to continue that. All right, we're already out of time for today, but as always, you can reach me and my team, Jenna, at afr.net.